Yeah, thanks again for coming down.
My pleasure.
Yeah, I don't know if people get bummed that I do them on Saturday mornings or not, but
I'm typically not a morning person, but
yeah,
I'm actually kind of like happy to be up and about on a Saturday morning and
yeah,
have like kind of like the rest of the day to,
do something.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can't really be a morning person in the restaurant industry unless you're like
It's really hard. I
yeah,
mean, you're already so tired from working, 12, 14-hour days.
yeah.
So,
I love Steve, and you mentioned just before we started that you know Steve.
yes.
So technically we've had 3 podcasts booked with Steve in the last 2 months. And the first one was an early Saturday morning, and he completely forgot.
Oh, no.
He didn't. I'm sure he didn't forget. He slept in, and he messaged me like it was like I think the episode we were going to record at like 10 a.m. and at like 11 or 12, he sent me a message, dude, I'm so sorry. And he was like, it was a late night at the restaurant. Or, he's at Gilded Club now,
Right.
so he was like, I was there until 4 a.m. and just whatever. And I guess that's pretty much how it's going to go, right? I mean,
Yeah, especially if you're a bar in Armory Square, for sure. I remember, working at Lemongrass, and I was the pastry chef at one point. And man, people go out to eat really late at night, and then by the time they get dessert, sometimes it's like after midnight. So,
oh, yeah.
yeah, I definitely had some late nights down
Yeah.
there.
Well, for those of everybody that's tuning in, introduce yourself. Tell who you are, where you're from.
All right. My name is Sara Tong-Ngork. I grew up right here in Syracuse, and in the DeWitt area, I went to JD.
Okay.
I started out at ESF, was going to go and save the environment.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. I spent, I was there for, over 4 years, and then just decided that at the end of that time, I was about to graduate, I was going to my last semester, and people kept asking me, oh, what are you going to do when you graduate? And I didn't know, right? Honestly, I didn't know. And I started giving them this line like, oh, well, actually, I think I might explore culinary school. Like, that's where my heart and head is, and I just kept saying that so I would have an answer.
Yeah.
And then I ended up leaving ESF right before graduation, and then I was like, well, what am I going to do? And it just so happened that my uncle knew Max from Lemongrass.
Oh, okay.
And kind of got my foot in the door there. And as they say, the rest is history. I've been cooking ever since. That was like 1997.
Wow. So did you go to culinary school?
I did not. I went to the culinary school of Eamon Lee.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes, which is probably better than any degree
Yeah,
you
it probably is.
Yeah, you could get. So
Yeah.
Eamon was there my first day
Wow.
at Lemongrass. He was the chef at the bistro at the time.
Okay.
And then, I spent probably just over 4 years at Lemongrass.
Okay.
And Eamon had since moved on to the Century Club.
Yeah.
And, he asked me to join his team, and I was with Eamon. Well, Eamon wasn't there the entire time, but I was at the Century Club for a good 12 years, I want to say.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So you were at the Century Club for 12 years, and did you say you were at Lemongrass for 4?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. After the Century Club, I kind of bounced around a little bit. I helped my cousin and my aunt and uncle out at Bangkok. They used to own the Bangkok in Liverpool. I think I did maybe like a year or almost a year at Alpha when they were open.
What's that?
So Alpha was Lexi's restaurant. Lexi used to own Le Door with Jan.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So, yeah, she opened up in the old Saratoga Steaks location. And
okay.
Yeah. So, that was an amazing experience. It was a short and sweet stint, but man, I learned so much.
Yeah.
And then I landed at Bellevue Country Club, and I was there for about another, I would say 4 years.
Okay.
I started just out as a line cook, and then, the executive chef, Stephen Pontello, ended up leaving to go sell food, and I applied for the position and got it. So I was exec there for probably 2+ years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, now I don't know if that brings us to Firecracker Thai Kitchen. But
Yeah, almost. I left Bellevue, and then I kind of came full circle. And Max from Lemongrass had reached out to me and said, hey, Ploy is leaving. Ploy was his operations manager, and I knew she was such an integral part of his business that I kind of was like, well, I have to help him, like I can't not help him. Like, she's leaving. So I started there last summer, and really but not back of the house. I was actually front of the house doing operations management, which kind of set me up nicely for a Firecracker. It gave me some front of the house experience and having to deal with payroll and all that stuff. It's been a great experience, but it's funny that I've just come full circle and now I'm ready to branch out on my own.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I hate to say this, but I've never been to the bistro or to Lemongrass.
Really?
I don't know. There's no specific reason why. I've just never been. Yeah. I've been to Citronelle a couple times. But I've never been to the others.
Wow. Well, you should definitely go. It's like a Syracuse institution.
I know. I feel bad saying that.
And, well, I mean, don't feel bad. I get it. There are so many places to explore in Syracuse. Yeah. And, even I just went to Diffie for the first time the other day.
What'd you think?
I thought it was amazing.
Yeah.
I was I'm kicking myself for not having gone earlier and more often.
Yeah.
But, man, what a great job they do.
Yeah, it's I don't know what's going to happen with them.
Yeah.
It's sad, but that's part of, it's challenging in Syracuse, I think, to have, I've never been to Bistro or Lemongrass, but they're up there, they're considered higher end restaurants, correct? Fine dining. So there's definitely more of those in Syracuse now. You have Diffie, you have I wouldn't consider Amano fine dining, but Amano's,
it's elevated.
Yeah, I would say Amano's in the top 5 for quality, without a doubt.
Absolutely.
But fine dining, you have St. Urban, Diffie, Lemongrass, Bistro, Citronelle, I think would kind of be in there.
Yeah, I think Citronelle has elevated food, but maybe just a more casual atmosphere, which I think is kind of the sweet spot to hit in Syracuse.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting to see kind of what works and what doesn't. And Diffie, I think, is a restaurant that deserves to, if they do wind up closing, it'll definitely be to the loss for Syracuse. They're such an amazing restaurant.
Absolutely. The whole reason I went was because I wanted to support them and I had never been before. And, having a chef's schedule doesn't exactly, equate to tons of free time.
Right.
And especially on the day that the other restaurants are open, right?
Yeah.
They tend to close on the same days.
Yeah.
Sunday, Monday, they usually have off. So.
Yeah. It's, Diffie's great. I need to get to Lemongrass. I need to get to Bistro.
Don't fill yourself. Make sure you save room for desserts.
Yeah, right. I've thought about doing a tour of Armory Square. Oh yeah. And literally just starting at one end and just ping ponging back and forth every restaurant.
You'll be so full.
Not one night. Yeah. But definitely, I don't know how long that would take me if I did a lunch and dinner every night. Right. But I think that'd be kind of fun to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know what I would do with that afterwards besides post the pictures while I'm there. But it's pretty interesting because, we switched from Eat Local CNY to Eat Local New York. Mm-hmm. And now having to, we did it too soon, which is typically how I do a lot of things. I get the idea and I'm like, yes, let's go ahead and do that. And
it's better than the opposite though, just having a great idea and sitting on it for too long. So.
Yeah, that is true. So now now we're opened up to Buffalo and Rochester and Albany and New York City and the whole Hudson area.
Sure.
And, all the entire state. And just on Instagram, searching restaurants we'll leave New York City out of it because obviously, but Buffalo and Rochester, it is so amazing how many more restaurants there are out there. Mm-hmm. How amazing all of them look.
Yeah.
How much bigger. It's just
My sister lives in Buffalo,
Oh,
and
really?
man, what you talk about a food city. We plan our trip around where we're going to eat
Okay.
in Buffalo, and
Yeah.
it's just really amazing to me. And even just driving around, like every other thing is a restaurant. You know, parking lots full. I mean, maybe not at this
Yeah.
point, but you know, just like these restaurants just do so well. I mean, in my eyes, you know,
Yeah,
like just
right.
full parking lots and busy. And
Yeah.
you can't get a reservation, and
Right.
and so yeah, I'm always happy to go to Buffalo. You know.
Yeah, I'll have to get some tips from you because I need to start spending like weekends in these markets.
Okay.
You know, so that way I can go out there and get content and
Yeah,
take
yeah,
pictures and
sure.
all that kind of stuff. So I mean, I don't know. Well, I'm sure you would consider it pretty fortunate, but it's amazing that you, from not have gone to culinary school, which you don't have to in this industry,
Right.
but from not going to culinary school and starting at, you know, lemongrass
Yeah.
right out of the gates.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do you come from, like, are your parents cooks? Are there cooks in your family?
Both of them cook. They've never cooked professionally, but man, my parents can cook.
Yeah.
You know, I just grew up eating the most delicious food, and you know, and I guess like Thai culture is kind of like food is so important to it, and you know, I remember just like going to Thailand, and I'm kind of just going with the flow, right? Like we're just there with family, and we will have just eaten lunch, and before we're even finished, they're like, "Okay, what do you want for dinner? Where are we going for dinner?" And it's just you know, which I love. Like I love.
That sounds
all
like
the-
my day.
you know, it's just like the food experiences are just really amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I grew up like learning, you know, how to cook from them, and you know, Thai food kind of evolved for them because they couldn't necessarily get all the ingredients that they needed here. I remember, you know, my dad telling me the story about like they finally found fish sauce at some like downtown market, and it wasn't even Thai fish sauce, it was Filipino fish sauce, but man, they were so happy to have it. And you know, one time I think somebody had sent them fish sauce from Thailand in a package, and the bottle was plastic and it had cracked and leaked all over, and the mailman was just like, "You have something rotten in here. Here you go." But really, it was just fish sauce, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I you know, I grew up cooking and eating, and just loved food like since I was like really little. And after school, I think it was like the early days of like the Food Network, and I'd sit there after school and just like soak it all in. And that was back in the day when it was really good. I mean, you had these amazing chefs on.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, the early days you had everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and I'd like experiment with food and make my little sister try it when she got off the school bus. I'd be like, "Here, taste this." And it just grew from that, like experimenting with flavors and technique, and it just grew from there. And then of course, you know, Eamon taught me so much, Max taught me so much.
Yeah.
And I've just been picking up things along the way.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty amazing to have. I mean, I know I've already said it, but to think of having somebody like Eamon that you're working with, especially back then, yeah, that's got to be unbelievable.
I mean, that was back, you know, in his heyday. Like I can't I can't even begin to like explain how much he taught me about ingredients and flavors and just like simplicity. And you know, I think I used this word when I did my review of Diffie online, and their food is so unpretentious. You know, I feel like there was this phase of Syracuse fine dining where everything was kind of like over the top, and people were trying to put food together that didn't necessarily belong together, and I just found it very off-putting. You know, it's like when I cook, my flavors tend to be more natural, and, you know, Eamon taught me what grows together goes together. And
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think my food has definitely evolved over the years, but definitely influenced by Eamon.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with Steve about how a chef could fool me, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know, like, how should I put this? Like, if you look at a painting, like you take an artist who's a painter or maybe not a sculptor, well, maybe a sculptor, but painter, drawer, whatever. I don't know if drawer is actually the right term for an artist, but we'll just leave it at painter. Obviously, there's different categories, right? There's, expressionists and, real life. I know anybody who's listening to this who's an artist is going to cringe and hate me. But I did almost fail intro to art back in high school. So
oh boy.
That's why I stuck with photography in high school. But it's difficult to kind of, unless you're an experienced critic, it's difficult to take somebody's, painting and really put effort into saying whether it's good or bad, or bad, right?
Well, it's also subjective, right? Like, yeah.
For a chef who, I mean, you've been in great restaurants and you've been doing this for decades, do you feel the same about food? Can you feel the same about food, or is it just kind of like this works or it doesn't work?
I'm very open-minded about food. There are always kind of like those rules that you stick to that you learn very early on, no fruit with chocolate, right? Like that's pretty standard, like rule. And, but then I had, dessert at Diffie and it was chocolate and there was lime in there and there was a little raspberry. And I was I'm like, this is delicious, and, and so I think I just let my palate judge whether something works or not. Yeah. And, I'll try anything. Like if I see a menu or a recipe or something, I'm like, that doesn't sound like it'll work. Sometimes I'll just like throw the ingredients together and see if it does work. So
that's pretty interesting. I didn't know that there was a rule of no fruit with chocolate, because that means that I've been fooled a lot more than I thought I had.
I mean, it's a very old school rule, I find chocolate dipped strawberries delightful.
Yeah. See, I don't.
Really?
I don't know.
They have to be really ripe strawberries.
Yeah.
And, they have to be sweet enough to stand up to the chocolate. And they have to be ripe enough and be like super juicy. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
maybe that's why. Because usually the ones I've had are the ones you buy online,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I've just never been a fan of them for some reason.
I wasn't for the longest time. I'd see one and it wouldn't even interest me. And then one day the pastry chef at the Century Club had made them for a party. And he was like, here, eat this. And I was like, what? I just, I was like, man, have I been missing out this whole time? and then I bought some and they were horrible. And I was like, I guess I haven't been missing out. So it has to be this very unique set of circumstances for a chocolate strawberry to be delicious.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
I think probably one of my favorite desserts in the area, Amano does a great job. They do their, it was a pasta chut, but it was like hazelnut, and that was really good. Yum. And then Francesca's, what is that?
The butter cake?
Yes. That so thing good. Is out of this world.
Yeah, for sure.
But St. Urban, he did this like 3 different chocolates, and I know I believe he gets he sources his chocolate from Nostalgia, which is in Syracuse. But anyways, it was just amazing.
Oh, cool. Yeah, he, so Jared worked at the bistro with Eamon and I.
Really?
Yeah, when the first time I was at Lemongrass Bistro.
I did not know that.
Yeah, Jared was Eamon's sous chef. And then Jared also left to go to the Century Club with Eamon.
Really?
Yeah, so they have a long-standing relationship. And And then I think, and Eamon is the one to have made all of Jared's little trays.
I know. Yeah, I knew
for
that.
the salt and
yeah.
pepper and stuff in St. Urban. But
Yeah.
it was so funny. I ran into Jared randomly in the parking lot of Wegmans. And I just happened to be shopping for my pop-up event that was a couple weeks ago. And I told him, I'm like, yeah, I'm doing this pop-up. He goes, oh, cool. And I just like nonchalantly told him like what was going on and stuff. And lo and behold, I'm looking at the orders the next day, and he had ordered from me. And he came down to pick up his order, and he brought me madeleines that he and his team had just made. I was like, holy cow, how delicious and like so thoughtful.
I know.
So I've been to St. Urban once, and I keep meaning to go back, but wow, what an amazing job he does.
Yeah.
And like how lucky is Syracuse to have it.
I know. That's I found that as I get to know a chef or restaurant owner more, that I begin to not appreciate their food as much. I think that's probably the case with like anybody,
Yeah.
with like anybody that you look up to. So I try to not get to know. I've learned my lesson now. I try to not get to know some of them as well. I don't want to hang out with them and have a drink or anything like that. And Jared's would probably I would put in that group. And to me, Jared was like, I think I've heard the stories of like New York, of his time in New York City, but I'd like to just imagine that he appeared one day in a kitchen, already having all of the knowledge and experience.
Yeah, I mean, he and I didn't keep in touch after he left. But it was nice to see him and eat his food again.
Oh,
I mean, back in the days of bistro and everything, he made some tremendous food. Like,
I bet, yeah.
Like things and combinations that I still remember today. I think he was the first one to introduce me to the pairing of beets and truffles. And, I've used that combination like countless times.
It's got to be pretty interesting to see somebody back in the day like that, and then to kind of see what they put on their menu evolve over that time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and his madeleines are baked fresh, which is unreal.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I think I've only been to one other place that does that. Morrow's Table in Auburn.
Oh, do they do that too?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if they still do that, but I remember at the end they would bring you fresh, like these little mini madeleines.
Yeah.
And
yeah. That's
such
amazing.
a delicious
I know. I really just want to go to St. Urban now for dinner tonight. Yeah. Maybe I can get my wife to do that.
There you go.
Yeah, maybe. All right. So talk to me a little bit about getting involved with Salt City Market. Have you always wanted to own or operate your own restaurant?
That's the funny thing is, of course I feel like it's any cook's dream to have their own place, right? But having been in the business and not really had a lot of experience with the front of the house and the business end of it, I always said to myself, oh my God, I would never open up my own place. I have no idea how to do these things. When you're working so many hours in the kitchen, you don't have time to learn all these things.
Yeah.
And, I had met Adam Sudman a number of years ago. I forget where I was even working, but I get a call from my friend's wife, who is his sister-in-law, and she says, oh, my brother-in-law is coming into town. He was hoping that someone could show him around like some international markets. And I remember I took Adam on a tour of all the Asian markets I knew at the time. I think there were like a handful. We went to, Hans on Erie Boulevard. We went, at the time, there was Pan Asian Market that was kind of like behind like Popeyes on Erie Boulevard. I took him to a couple on the north side. There was a Lao little grocer right on Butternut. And then there was Vian Dong right on Townsend. And, we like made an afternoon of it. And then shortly after, he started My Lucky Tummy.
Yeah.
And I think I had volunteered for the first dinner, and then I actually cooked for the second dinner. And then I think I landed at Bellevue or somewhere that I just had no more time.
Yeah.
But I had known Adam since those early days. And of course, since then, like the Asian markets have kind of tripled in number and, which I'm super happy about. But we had always kind of kept in touch. And there was a point where he was on board to open with Love for OCC. And had kind of tapped me to be the teaching chef there.
Okay.
And, we had conversations, and I had sat in on a number of their meetings and things like that. We had started kind of recipe development with one of the vendors. And then Bellevue offered me the position, and I said, I can't turn it down, which I was so sad about because, there are just humans you click with, over food or whatever. And Adam and I just kind of clicked. And so, we kept in touch. I get an email now and then. And then it just so happened that I left Bellevue at the end of January of last year. And I think I got one of the emails and about Salt City Market and, this is our last info session before the fall. And I said, well, let me just go and see what this is all about. Right. Let me go and support Adam and just listen. And, by the end of it, I was like, here they're opening up a food hall and there's, the Allen Foundation behind it and Syrup and, Center State CEO, and there was all this like training involved. And I said, if I'm ever going to open up a restaurant like this, this is how I'm going to do it. And I think the application was due like the Monday. It was like a Friday or Saturday or something. And the application was due that Monday. So I went home and I scribbled a bunch of stuff down and I sent it in. And then it was just like a snowball rolling downhill. It just gained momentum, and next thing you know, I'm in my first interview, which I have to cook for. I'm part of the pop-up, and then I move on, and then it's like full force into like these meetings and classes. And man, it kept going and going. And then, shortly after I started that process, I landed at Citronelle.
Oh, wow.
And so here I am trying to balance like this very full-time job and still trying to go after, this spot in this amazing stall. Yeah. And the past year has seriously been a blur. I mean, just a blur. And I remember, I think the last kind of things we had to do audition-wise was right before the holidays of last year. And I remember, I'm like, oh my gosh, like sigh of relief, like this part is done. Like, let me just concentrate on Citronelle. It was party season at the time. So of course, we're so busy. And then I think they made the announcement at the end of January. Okay. And I just so happened to have had like some really weird symptoms and I was in the hospital. Oh, wow. And I remember asking my doctor, I'm like, can I go and come back? And he was like, no. And I was so upset. But if you look at the Salt City Market, like video of all of us like getting into the market, you see Adam like holding up his cell phone and I'm in like a hospital gown with like bed head. Like that was my contribution to that video. So it's just been a crazy, crazy ride, but
you really couldn't ask for a better situation to get a first restaurant. I mean, to get any restaurant, but especially your first. I mean, and you kind of touched on everything. I mean, to have all the education, all of the experience, all of the backing from the Allen Foundation. I mean, it's like the best of any scenario to open up a restaurant.
It's a dream come true. Yeah. I mean, just how fortunate is Syracuse to even have like the Allen Foundation and then now to have this amazing building being built and because
there's so many, I'm fortunate to work at Gerhard, so I've been able to see.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I love those guys.
Yeah. So I've been with them since February. I've been doing I'm the marketing manager over there.
Oh, cool.
And it's been really interesting to see, especially see everybody come through and kind of design their space.
Yeah. What a fun day that was.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. But it's been really interesting just to see how well everything is being done.
Yeah.
I mean, the expertise, the attention to detail that's going into every aspect of it is really amazing.
Absolutely. I mean, I can't say enough about like the support behind the project. You know, as someone who has been in the industry, I feel really fortunate that I kind of have a background in this, right? Like I can kind of say, well, no, I don't want the grill there, or no, like this is how the line should flow. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of our vendors, they are leaving different careers to start their own restaurant. And it's just amazing that Salt City Market kind of had the foresight to have all these support services around it.
Yeah.
You know, to help everyone get to where they need to be.
Yeah. It's I was having a conversation with a friend last week or the week before, and we had like lost connect, you know, we hadn't connected in like 3 or 4 years, mm-hmm. or however long it had been. So we got together over lunch. We were talking about like just everything that like had happened in our lives. So we were talking a lot about just Syracuse, and one thing that I just feel like I've always gotten a vibe from Syracuse is it doesn't really have its own anything. It doesn't have its own like personality that you could like look at the entirety of the city and say, oh, okay, I get it. I mean, there's the only thing that people really gather around is like SU athletics,
right?
Which I suppose that's kind of a thing, but not really. Kind of the personality aspect, even like I may get flack for this, but even like the musicians, some of the artists, a lot of the artists, just feels like everything to me. I shouldn't say everything. Most things are a copycat of something else.
Interesting.
I don't feel that way with the food.
Mm-hmm.
I think that which I mean, I'm sure most of it is, and everything is. I view everything. If I have an idea for something, no matter how original it is, someone else, somewhere else in the world,
of course,
throughout time, already had that idea.
Absolutely,
right.
I feel that way about food.
Yeah. Yes.
I will come up with a brilliant moment in my head, and 2 weeks later, I'll see it on a menu. I'm like, son of a.
And I'm sure without a doubt that is the case for food, because
it's all been done before,
exactly.
right? I mean, there's only so much food in the world, and I mean, I shouldn't say that. There's a lot of new and innovative flavors and techniques and stuff that is beyond my comprehension. Not that I wouldn't love to taste it, right?
But that's kind of the beauty of food, is that a lot of like these recipes are recipes, unless you're making like a boozy milkshake, like you see up at Rise and Shine or something like that, or a cannoli donut or with bacon on it from Blazing, unless you're seeing something like that. Yeah. A lot of these are recipes that have been around for generations.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, even a French fry or a hamburger, like relatively new things to the culinary world. They've still been around for quite a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
But one thing that I love about the Salt City Market, and it's not a new or original idea, right? A food hall like this.
It's new to Syracuse.
It's not only is it new to Syracuse, but it feels authentic.
Yeah.
In other words, like most other things in the city, I kind of feel like are a copycat. Mm-hmm. And you can kind of tell it's like somebody's trying to be something else.
Yeah.
And even though Salt City Market, and they're not claiming to be like the first food hall ever, even though it is a copy, it just feels authentic. It feels like it's being done well and original. And
I feel like it feels authentic because it's people from like the Syracuse area who are doing it. The chefs are from Syracuse. Like the whole idea of it has kind of grown organically. And, I wasn't really privy to those like initial conversations about the hall, but before I even decided to apply, I had sat in on a couple meetings about things that they were talking about, and I just said, man, does Syracuse need this? You you can go to like all these other cities and their ethnic foods are just top notch and they're plentiful. And, you know, I remember going to college, like 92 to 96, and my friend from New York was like, oh my gosh, my favorite food is Ethiopian. And ever since I've wanted Ethiopian food, and you know, Habiba's finally open. But how long ago was that? Not even that long ago.
Yeah, a year and a half or so.
Yeah, so you know, it's up and coming. Like Syracuse needs it.
Yeah,
I think there's a thirst for it in the city, and you know, I'm just really excited that they decided to do this project. Like, even I said all along, even if I didn't get in, I'm like, man, what an amazing project.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, there really is great ethnically diverse food that's popping up in the city. I don't know if that's the right way, ethnically diverse, but diverse food establishments. There's just a new Cuban place I just found out about on
really?
Burnett. Yeah. And I think it's just like a sandwich place for the most part. But I saw the guy who owns it started posting on Facebook, and so he was posting Cubans. It was like, this looks like a pretty legit Cuban.
Yeah.
And it was for the most part, but it was, I'm not kidding, the entire sandwich was this long. And like, I mean, it's massive.
Wow.
Like, one whole sandwich, which is like $9, could feed easily 4 people.
Holy cow.
I'm a big guy, and it could easily feed 4 people.
Wow.
It is a huge, and it was, you know, pretty legit. I was just talking because I work with, you know, Anthony D'Onofrio over at Gearhars, who he's, you know, used to be the chef at Modern Malt and stuff.
I used to love Modern Malt.
Yeah, so I used to love Modern Malt too.
I mean, I just remember going there for the first time, and I was like, what? Somebody's actually making real hollandaise? Like, what's going on?
I know, right? Yeah. That's kind of my long-standing joke with him, is that there are so many different like Benedicts that he did over there that he's just like, his MO is like, whatever he does, he's going to turn into a Benedict. So we were talking, he's going to help Kasai out, I think, at the end of the month, when like Kyle and like the sous chef are both on vacation.
Oh, wow.
At the same time. So D'Onofrio was going to go down and help him. And I said,
that's awesome.
Whoever goes that weekend is just going to get like whatever they order. It's going to be a Benedict.
That's hilarious.
The ramen's going to come with 2 biscuits and hollandaise sauce. But he and I were talking about, like, you know, how weird of a sandwich a Cubano is. I mean, it's like this delicious roasted pork, which makes sense, you know, and that mojo sauce. You know, you have cilantro and lime and oranges and, you know, garlic and maybe a little bit of mint, or, you know.
Yeah, but let's throw in some mustard and pickles.
Right. Yeah. And Swiss cheese.
Yeah.
And then put
and ham.
And ham. And then put it on bread and smash the shit out of it.
Right.
You know? Yeah. It's such a weird sandwich. It really is, but it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like it hits all your flavor receptors in your tongue, right? Like everything.
Yeah. So they make a great one. There's I mean, that little triangle of, you have Doloro's Bakery, you have Mi Casita across the street, and you have the halal place across the street from there.
Yeah.
Which I haven't been there yet, but somebody was just telling me that they're pretty good.
Yeah. What did I have from there? I think I had like their biryani and maybe like their stewed lamb or something like that. But it was delicious. I just happened to be in there. I needed halal chicken for an event I was doing, and I was like, oh, lunch is already made.
Mi Casita does a great job, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, Doloro's, there's something about walking in there and getting one of those little mini calzones wrapped up in tinfoil.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, I think I'm going to go there after this podcast is done. It's just a good little corner.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So there is some great food out there. I mean, and I can't really talk about unknown places without mentioning, I don't think I'm pronouncing it right, but Kai Dun and the best banh mi that maybe exists, you know, in the area.
Yeah.
I mean, just Yeah, there's some really great food in Syracuse.
Yeah, speaking of banh mi, so now who owns Mama Hai, that's going to be in the market. She just had her event last week.
Oh, yeah.
And man, talk about the best banh mi I've ever had.
Really?
She made all of her meats.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and her twist on it is she throws a little pepperoni in her banh mi, which sounds so strange, but it was so delicious.
Really?
Like I was like, what? Like my mind was just kind of blown. But yeah, man, she did a great job. She made her own pate. She made her own pork roll, and then I think there was like a Vietnamese sausage that she made. So yeah, there's good things coming.
Yeah. That reminds me, there's this French restaurant on the way out to Skinny Atlas. It's like in a house.
Oh, I've heard of it. I've never been there.
I've never been there either, but I was at a Farm to Fork event that she was like helping at, working at, cooking at, and she made this yak pate.
Really?
It was amazing.
Wow.
Just on a little crostini. It was really, really, really good.
Wow. Where did she get yak from?
I have no clue. I have no idea. But it was a yak pate.
That's really interesting.
I know. I didn't think I was going to like it. And it was like the best thing I've ever had before.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah, there's a lot of hidden gems out there. If we can just get past, what we think of as good food or what we're like think of as something we're willing to try.
Right.
Like if you just open your mind a little bit.
Yeah.
It's worth it.
I really enjoy going into a restaurant where I typically only do it where I know or trust like the cook or the chef. And I usually just say, like at Eden, I do this. I never order. I just say whatever Rich thinks I should have is what I'll have. You know?
That's fun.
And I love doing that at Deefy when they did the challenge. You know, their 4, I think it was 3 or 5 or whatever, how many courses. But it was their challenge, and they would just come and ask you a series of questions, and then go back and prepare a menu based on your answers.
Yeah.
And my wife and I did that together side by side one night, and she's not very adventurous, so we had like venison was the main course, and mine had pig's blood, and hers didn't. Or I forget what what one of the early courses was, but mine had sea urchin roe, and hers didn't. I just really enjoy doing that.
Yeah.
Like if I know that you know what you're talking about, I will, whatever you think I should have, I'll have it.
Yeah, that's super fun.
Yeah. All right. So you already had your pop-up.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But we were talking beforehand that 3 of you are going to get together here in a little bit and do...
Yeah, 4 of us. And then, we invited a couple friends who kind of were in the audition process, but didn't make it in. So now who does Mama Hai, myself doing Firecracker, Dune who does Cake Bar.
Yeah.
And LaToya who does Irma's Island Jamaican.
Oh, yeah.
Are going to get together and kind of do our little riff on the state fair. And then we also invited Najud, who was actually one of the chefs in residence at With Love. She was Palestine.
Oh, okay.
And then Venus also, same thing. I think she did like low country southern cuisine. But we're all going to do like our little versions of favorite state fair foods. We're working at the menu right now, and it'll be, I think, the last Sunday in August.
Okay. Is that through Salt City Market, or is that on your own?
That is through Salt City Market.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So all of August has been this whole idea of curbside test kitchen.
Yeah.
We're all on our own, have had sessions testing out our own recipes just to get them standardized and on paper and, make sure that it's the most delicious version of the dish that we can come up with. So we had, with the state fair being canceled, like, man, what a void. Like, I know they're doing stuff in the parking lots and stuff like that, but it's not the same. And so if it's not going to be the same, why don't we just do something totally different? And the series has been so popular. Like, I think we've all just sold out every single week, every single day. Today is actually Cake Bar's bake sale.
Oh, okay.
So, and she closed ordering yesterday, so she sold out before the event even started.
Wow.
And yeah. So it's really nice to be with this group of women, and we've all had this journey together. and just to collaborate and really bring like delicious food to people, you know, and I think that's like what my joy of cooking comes from is sharing my flavors with people who appreciate them and enjoy them.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so how can people find you and learn more about everything you're doing?
So they can find me on Facebook or Instagram. It's Firecracker SYR. And my webpage is firecrackersyr.com. And they can look at the menu that I've come up with so far on the website. All our event information will be up there shortly once we decide on the menu. And
Awesome.
Yeah, of course they can follow Salt City Market too, and then all of our information will be on there.
Cool. And I'm gonna get down to lemongrass and the bistro soon.
Yes, you should. I mean, especially right now, it's dining week.
Oh, that's true. I didn't think about that. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'll check it out.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Sarah. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.